Why have millions of Latin Americans left their homes and families to make an illegal, expensive, dangerous, and sometimes deadly journey north?
In a few moments, I will sign the North American Free Trade Act into law.
The government understood at the time they signed it that they were signing away life rights for a large part of its rural population. It wasn't a surprise for the government leaders, and it wasn't a surprise for the peasantry.
More people have died crossing the U.S.-Mexico border than died as a result of the September 11th terrorist attacks and Hurricane Katrina combined.
Cada día recordaba esa noche, cuando muchas personas no lograron cruzar.
And that's what the system of global apartheid is. It's morally corrupt.
This is the second cooler that we built to accommodate the overflow of border crosser deaths that we have. Generally, these people can be here for months and sometimes even years as we attempt to identify them.
A couple of years ago, a migrant died almost in the back door of the Baptist church in cells, and nobody said a word. You would think it was a stray dog that died.
In my opinion, the worst thing that the Biden administration did to our country is the invasion at the border. The last administration and their allies in Congress brought in millions and millions of migrants and gave them taxpayer-funded housing while your rent and housing costs skyrocketed. Over 60% of growth in the rental market came from foreign migrants. At the same time, illegal aliens stole American jobs and flooded emergency rooms, getting free health care and education paid for by you, the American taxpayer. They also increased the cost of law enforcement by numbers so high that they are not even to be mentioned. For the first time in 50 years, we are now seeing reverse migration as migrants go back home, leaving more housing and more jobs for Americans. In the year before my election, all net creation of jobs was going to foreign migrants. Since I took office, 100% of all net job creation has gone to American-born citizens, 100%. In the end, government either serves the productive, patriotic, hardworking American citizen, or it serves those who break the laws, cheat the system, and seek power and profit at the expense of our nation. Look at Minnesota, where Somalians have taken over the economics of the state and have stolen billions and billions of dollars from Minnesota and indeed from the United States of America. And we're going to put an end to it.
Yeah, baby, it's episode 64 of The Whiners on December 18th, 2025. Jeff Norman with you, along with my delightful co-hosts, Morgan and Ryan. Sorry about, I think the volume on that opening was too loud. That was my fault. Sorry if I hurt your ears. All right.
My delicate ears, I could feel it.
We're happy to have with us tonight as a special guest Ellen Jimerson, even though she spells Ellen with an I, and that was very disturbing at first. We got over it, and I said, what the hell? Let's have her on and get to the bottom of that. Ellen is a published historian, a liberation theologian. We're libation theologians, so that's almost the same thing. She's also a documentary filmmaker, including the great film The Second Cooler, and that in our opening we saw the trailer for that film. She's also a minister and an author, and she's known for her advocacy for undocumented immigrants and for having been the first Baptist minister to officiate at a legal same-sex wedding. Good evening to you, Ellen. How are you?
The resume. Good. You've done your research. You've done your research. You got it all.
He's looking to get married. That's really what this is about.
Yeah. I'll turn gay if I have to, if that's the only kind of wedding that you officiate.
Oh.
Can't be picky at this point. But despite my intense research, I was not able to find out why you spell Ellen with an I. So maybe, I know a lady has to keep some secrets, so you don't want to give it up.
I'm happy to give it up.
Yes.
I told Ryan and Morgan, I think before you came on, that when my grandmother, after I was born in Atmore, Alabama, my grandmother went to get the papers for me, and she was told, no, that's not how you spell Ellen. And my grandmother won, because my grandmother always won. And it's a combination of my mother and my father's name. My mother was Eleanor with an I, and my father was Edwin. So they put it together and came up with Ellen with an I.
Very good. I'm laughing because Somerville John says, make sure he has money in the bank. He's looking out for my husband.
Oh, nice. Nice. I charged $200, so.
Thank you for explaining. You owed us no explanation, but you gave it anyway. Thank you, Ellen.
And I love that story. So
Thank you.
That's very sweet, actually. Never argue with your grandmother. That's maybe one of them.
Not Miss Crawford. No.
Oh.
Ryan, what are you drinking tonight, my dear friend?
Well, I am drinking something called Motif. I think it's Motif. Yeah, it's no V in that. It is a Cabernet Sauvignon. Guess where it's from, Jeff?
Where is it made?
Oh, your favorite store.
Oh, Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's.
I don't know why you always say it's my favorite store, but okay.
I don't know. I think we go back and look at all the wines. But this is a Trader Joe's special. And since you and I have been doing a little bit of behind the scenes wine research, it is the main thing is it's 10% Petit Verdot. And we in the wine world, us wine experts, we talk about the sweet in the front. This one is supposed to build the, what do they call it, mid-palate. So that mouthfeel to make it taste like it's a more expensive wine. We'll just say it that way. It's only $5 though. It's really good.
Oh.
All right. Well, I love the whole presentation. $5 for a wine that you like. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
And Ryan, now you, Morgan knows, but you don't know Ellen. I don't know if the audience knows that Ryan is one of my best friends, and he has improved my life in so many ways. Each one may not seem like a big thing, but it all adds up. For example, he's the one who turned me on to Android Auto, which was a life changer. And now I can't go anywhere without my Google Maps, which are made possible by Android Auto. He also just sent me a book about wine, and it's a very difficult book to get through, but I've been forcing myself, and the book keeps telling me that the wine I've been pairing with my food is all wrong, and it turned me on to a white wine. What's the German wine that's Riesling?
Or Gewürztraminer, or
no, Riesling. No, Riesling. That's it. So the book said that Riesling goes with a lot of food. Riesling's great. It's one of the most underrated wines. So I bought a few bottles of Riesling the other day, and I loved it. So I'm going to have more of that. But it also said it was also touting Cabernet Franc, and I found myself a bottle at a pretty good price, and I'm drinking it now, and I'm loving it. So
All right.
thank you, wine, for once again improving my life. I say that because I drink wine all the time, so that is sort of a big deal in my life. I've found a couple of new wines now that I like because of you.
Hey,
That's awesome.
that is.
If y'all ever come to my neck of the woods, I will take you to our famous Jack Daniel's distillery.
Oh,
I'm
that's
down
serious.
for that. I am down for that.
Just up
Are
the
you
road.
allowed to sleep over in the distillery if necessary? Or do that could be trouble.
One of my favorite bourbons is a Jack Daniel's, but the blender is from Japan. So he has blended it in a Japanese tradition. Really very good.
Oh. So what are the ladies drinking tonight? Anything?
Well, I'm drinking tea. I know I'm the boring one of the group. They
You're
like
the responsible one of the group.
Not at all. And Alan,
I'm drinking tonic water, plain tonic water.
All right. There's
Yeah,
one
I
key
don't
ingredient
trust
missing.
myself.
Yeah, it's
Uh-huh.
missing.
As I
It is
said
missing
before.
some.
It's what? It's missing the gin, but
Yeah.
Yes,
Or you
I
say it backwards like that Billy Joel song, a tonic and gin, instead of a gin and tonic. Well, after the show, you can add the other ingredient.
I could, yes.
You might want to.
And, in
Yeah, we want-
Stockholm last week, I had some pink gin. Pink gin.
How was it?
It was good. It was gin. It was good.
All right, no
Why was it
difference.
pink?
All right.
Is it? Do
I
we
think
know?
it was a little sweet, maybe. It was hard to
Himalayan, maybe it was Himalayan pink gin, like
tell. It
Himalayan
didn't
pink
say
salt.
so, but I don't know.
I'm
Look
just
at
making it up.
that.
I'm just making it up. It's not true. You're a
It's the
minister. I
motif
should not
that
lie.
you're looking
I
for.
shouldn't lie.
Well, our president reportedly doesn't drink alcohol, but nonetheless, Susie Wiles says he has an alcoholic's personality.
Yeah.
What did you think, Alan, of that snippet we showed in the opening from the president's speech last night? Did you like the way it was juxtaposed against your film?
I think A, he's an idiot, and B, he really doesn't have talking points that are much different from his predecessors, but he's more overt and more in your face with it, so.
That was the premise of your Substack article, that in some ways he is unique, but in other ways, immigrants have been the victims of injustice for many years over many presidential administrations, right?
Right. And one of the things that people talk about so much is what he's doing to due process and democracy. And I'm like, where have y'all been? But I know the problem is mainstream media, which is why I'm so grateful for people like y'all and for Russell and Keaton at Due Dissidence and Glenn, all the regulars. What came to my attention was I've got to be interested in immigration in 2006. And by 2008, I was making the second cooler. And I knew about the policy of prevention through deterrence, or funneling migrants to their deaths in the Sonoran Desert, which is, of course, a total collapse of due process. It's an effort to deprive people of their life, their liberty, their property, without charge, without judge, without jury, without anything other than because the federal government wants to do that. And so that's what, so as I started to, the point I was starting to make is that I began to, I was working on the second cooler when Obama was elected president. And I'm like, if I know this, if I know about prevention through deterrence, if I know about migrant deaths, if I know about the impact of NAFTA on the Mexican peasantry, then the New York Times knows it.
Mm-hmm.
And Democracy Now! Knows it. Where are they? And then, of course, not much was said during Obama's 8 years with all these things going on that I outline in the Substack article, the abuse of children in Border Patrol custody, all the things. But then
So
Trump,
even democracy now has been negligent on this issue?
Democracy Now! Finally got around to inviting Todd Miller onto the show, but that was only in the last couple of years. NPR, I didn't hear a word about prevention through deterrence until 2 or 3 years ago, when they had somebody on there to talk about other things having to do with Trump. And she mentioned it was the first time I'd heard anybody on NPR say a word, and I haven't heard anything much.
Usually NPR has, the story would have to be how migrants dying in the desert still manage to make paintings and lawn art or something. That's NPR as far as I'm concerned. They tend to really kind of not go into anything that's that important.
You're absolutely right. And as I was saying, when Trump was elected, there was an explosion of interest in immigration, family separations. I don't know what people think deportation is, if it's not family separation, which of course was why Obama was nicknamed the deporter in chief. But then Biden gets elected, calms down again. Nobody has anything to say. Now Trump gets elected the second time, another explosion of interest. And it gives the false impression that Trump is somehow novel in all of this. And while it's true that he's taken things to the next level, he's standing on the shoulders of giants in the area of
your Substack. Yeah, your Substack does a really great job at building that, all the way back to Bill Clinton, and which it was surprising for me to know. I always thought that Obama was the one who really infringed on habeas corpus, and you said that there's like this precursor that Bill Clinton even started. Could you talk on that? Because I find like this whole immigration industrial complex, there's all these different the war complex, all of these little apparatuses that they're just generating to make money. That really it's used to kind of further up the police state in America. We see this with ICE right now, where it's okay. We have the cheerleaders that are cheerleading it on. They're doing it to the people who are not here legally, but it's to desensitize the American citizen to see this militarized, police force in your neighborhood with the masks, which remind me of kind of the raids that happen in occupied Palestine and West Bank, where you have the IDF who are ripping people out of their homes, and it's kind of how it starts. So I kind of have that sense where, okay, you might be cheerleading this on now, but when is this ICE apparatus? When are they going to extend to something that you're not acceptable with? And you've already kind of allowed this to happen, where these people are going into neighborhoods with machine guns, with sometimes military gear. And it's frightening. You really shouldn't have a police force that is getting to that level. And then again, when you have, the surveillance state, that I think that is kind of what this whole immigration is also used to take a step up in surveillance. And of course, the government rarely recoils back the rights that they take from you. So I want you to talk about the Bill Clinton and habeas corpus aspect too that you had in your.
Well, habeas corpus is the right to be physically present in a courtroom and have it be determined whether you're being detained with cause or without cause. And habeas corpus per se, but as I say, with Clinton and the policy of prevention through deterrence, which has cost 30,000 people maybe their lives, it's minus habeas corpus, but it's minus everything else as well. So, there's no charge, there's no jury, there's no judge. And then you get to Operation Streamline, where you've got these mass trials, which I have witnessed in Tucson, and I witnessed that back in 2008.
Now, what do you mean by mass trials?
Where it's where they streamline it. They take 20, 30, 40 migrants before a judge, and they plead guilty all at once, and they're sentenced all at once. And I've seen where, after the sentence, one of the prisoners would go before the judge and say, "When can I come back in?" And the judge says, "Never." So you've got people, some of them don't speak Spanish, much less English. They speak indigenous languages. They have no idea what's going on. They have one lawyer. They've never met the lawyer before. They have no idea what's going on. They're shackled together. This is women as well as men. And they go before the judge in this en masse trial. I mean, what is an en masse trial?
Right. So I'm by no means an expert on this, but there is something that I think is sort of a built-in problem that is often overlooked, and I think we should mention it as we discuss this, and that is that immigration courts are administrative. They're part of the DOJ, which means they're part of the executive branch. So the usual separation of branches that exists does not exist. And I think that's a big part of the problem, because who are you going to complain to if it's the administration that's in power that's responsible for the injustice, but they're also the people that you would complain to?
Yeah. It's, as Rachel, your lawyer last week said, it's an inherent conflict of interest. Or I don't think that's exactly how she put it. But
did we mention this last week? I don't remember that.
Not that per se. Go ahead, Morgan.
No, I was just making that clarification. But yeah, it's very important to note that some of these streamline also entailed biometric data collection all the way back in. What was the date? I know, was it pre-Obama or was it during Obama? Which that is something that it goes to my case that this is further just, entrenching a police state and surveillance state into, interloping Palantir tech and into this military apparatus, into the police force that I find unsettling.
It is unsettling.
It predates kind of what, a lot of people are alarming the bells now with the Trump administration kind of having this close relationship with, Peter Thiel and Palantir and Alex Karp. They're all kind of interloped with each other, that this has been something that's building up. And it's not something that one administration, it's just this continuation, this snowball effect.
See, I think that's the big point, which also, Ellen, you had in your Substack, is that because people like to jump on the latest thing, right? Oh, well, Trump's the guy in power. He's the cause of all my problems.
Yeah.
And you start off, I think the subtitle is, it didn't start with Donald Trump. I mean, one thing that has, we obviously know in the news, you have the question of whether we're going to go to war with Venezuela right now. And, the president was using this term of the narco terrorists, which really doesn't exist in reality. We saw in the last week, Max Blumenthal was pointing to an article from 1993, before your film came out, about how the CIA had been involved in the creation of the cartels of the Sun drug cartel. Now, without going through lots of history, we also have the entire history of all of the South American military coups, Pinochet, Well, I mean, one reason we have the problem that we have at the border is that you have all of these countries in a very destabilized, broken situation. You brought up, from our show last week, John Deere. But there are other examples to that too. Chiquita Banana, etc. The drug cartels.
Well, and coming back to Obama, my overall assessment and point is, if you don't want people coming across the border illegally, stop displacing them to begin with. And of course, Obama and particularly Hillary Clinton, and you talk about Chiquita banana, Dole pineapple. Hillary Clinton was on Dole pineapple's payroll, basically. And when they elected Manuel Zelaya in Honduras, who was moving Honduras to the left, more or less, he was interested in indigenous rights and water rights and those kinds of things. Dole pineapple or Dole Foods and Hillary Clinton would have none of it. So they carried out a coup against Manuel Zelaya, which sent the whole country spiraling down into, look at that, spiraling downward into poverty, femicide, persecution of LGBT people, trans people, and all these kids coming out of Honduras. And he and Clinton both said they'll be much safer here, but we're going to send them back. And so, that the coup was in 2009. He was hardly even in office. But that was that was one of the things that was photographed and the media was interested in, were people coming out of Central America, especially Honduras. And, they get here, and so many of these are kids, and they're taken into Border Patrol custody, and they're abused, horrifically abused, and then sent back to gangs and deaths. And, we talk, one of the hot button issues today is that of trans people. And there was an entire caravan of trans women who came out of Honduras during Obama's first administration, a couple of whom died in Border Patrol custody. But those trans women don't get our attention. Those people are not interesting to us. It's the kids that are being taken advantage of and their parents, and that is a sexy, interesting issue.
Right. So getting people's interest is emerging here as a bit of a theme.
Oh yeah.
So let me ask you about the wall. When Trump first ran the first time and he started making noise about the wall, he got a lot of flack for that. Oh, what a terrible person. He's saying all these unfair things about immigrants, so forth and so on. And most of the people who sided with the immigrants were objecting to the wall. And I remember saying to myself, they're squandering an opportunity here to turn the debate towards the real issue. Yeah. If I may make what might sound like a weird analogy, prison reform activists would never object to the wall around a prison being such that you can't get out of the prison. Prison reform activists worry about what it is that puts people in prison, what the conditions are like when they're in there, and what it's like for them once they get out. And I was like, why are they objecting to the wall instead of the plight of immigrants?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm guilty of blaming.
I agree with you.
So well, here's my question. Is there something wrong? I don't know if that's the right word, but are immigrant advocates lacking a certain skill, or is it like what you were saying before? Well, the media, they're just not covering it. Because say what you want about Trump, he has skill in the sense that he knows how to get attention.
Yeah.
And I think that it fell right into what he wanted, which is he wanted the wall is something very visual. It sticks in your mind. And everybody screaming about it conveyed what he wanted, which was to be known as the guy who was strict about immigration. That is skill. Does the other side lack skill? Is that the problem?
Oh my gosh. The other side not only lacks skill, they lack knowledge, they lack any interest in being informed. Where I am, or was in Alabama, I'm now in Tennessee, but Alabama is where I was involved in immigration advocacy. And I became so frustrated with the bigger groups. They get a 501c3 status, and all they want to do is promote comprehensive immigration reform. The dismal package that came before Congress in 2012, dismal package that did nothing for immigrants and everything for military contractors. It was a full border militarization package. There was on paper a pathway to citizenship, but the trigger leading to that pathway being opened was full border militarization. And when would that ever happen? When would that ever happen? When you've got surveillance, as Morgan talks about, when you have all the complications surrounding full border militarization, when would that ever happen? It would never happen. And the big 501c3 advocacy groups didn't care a bit what it actually was.
It's more about posture as opposed to actually solving a problem. I think that's really what you're saying.
They want to maybe, I know people say that homeless organizations want to keep the money flowing. Like if they actually solve homelessness, then their income flow will stop.
Absolutely.
Is that kind of the same thing here?
Yeah, I mean, even at one point in Alabama, there were raids carried out. And this would have been 2013, 2015. I don't recall exactly the date, but years ago. And so there were so many people being arrested, and they needed money for lawyers, for bail, for, all of this. And I told the biggest group in Alabama, I know I can raise $3,000 because I've done it in the past. If you'll show the second cooler and charge $10 a head or whatever. They made no effort whatsoever to advertise the movie, to take in money, which even undocumented people would give 10, 20, 30. I've seen it. And again,
it's not like there are a lot of other films that, are more effective, right? You're not up against a lot of competition in the realm of documentary, and plus you had Martin Sheen to narrate it, for crying out loud. That made it.
It had everything. It's got fabulous music.
No, it was a very engaging film.
They weren't interested.
I was born in the Sonoran Desert down in Tucson. My family is from Nogales and Hermosillo in northern Mexico. Everything you said about the heat and just how deadly it is out there. I mean, I know that in spades, and nobody knows about that. The whole border for the last 20 years has been militarized. It's not, again, right now, it's been militarized because it used to be when I was a kid, you could just walk back and forth across the border and it was no big deal.
Yeah.
Shopping, go eat lunch, come back, no fears, no issues. So it's been a transformation. Now our other guest, Kevin Lynn, is backstage, but Ellen, there's something I want to talk to you both about. Before I do, I wanted to bring up the new national security strategy document of the Trump administration. And in there, on the section on South America and our hemisphere, he makes a certain point, or we make a certain point, that we need to make every effort to push out foreign companies that build infrastructure in the region, South America, our hemisphere, and that we should use American military, political, and financial might for expanding American access to critical minerals and materials. So definitely this idea of the, what do we call it the other night? The Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine is a breakdown further of the original intent of the Monroe Doctrine, that these were going to be sovereign nation states that would develop republics and economies that would be self-sufficient, productive on their own right. So on that note, I wanted to bring Kevin in and ask both of you about. Oh, there he is. Hey there,
Nice.
Kevin.
Hey,
Hi.
what's everyone drinking tonight?
Hey, Kevin.
We're drinking some wine.
Hey, Morgan, Ryan, Jeff.
Hey.
I'm with the old faithful.
That's right.
Same with some Jack Daniels here.
Oh,
We were talking about Jack Daniels.
Okay.
Alan's a big Jack Daniels
All right,
fan.
calm down, Kevin. Give Ellen is sober, so give her a chance here. Take
How
her a
many
break.
years, Alan?
No. It's just a few minutes.
Have you been dealing
Just
with
a few-
immigration? It'll drive you to drink.
I'm worried already. He sounds all tanked up. Take it easy. Take it easy. Dave.
So my question for
ahead.
Ellen and Kevin, both of you, in the film. By the way, Kevin, did you see the Second Cooler documentary that Ellen?
Not the
made?
second one, the first one.
No, the Second Cooler.
Well, I saw the one where you talked a lot about NAFTA and things
Yeah.
like that.
Right. That's
Yeah,
it.
I did see this.
Called this. So in there, Ellen, you talk about the H-2A visa, the guest worker visa. Kevin, he talks about all of the immigration visa policies, and we only touched on it, but you did not get into why maybe that visa itself is the problem, is one problem in terms of how people are abused up here. And then, Kevin, I would like you to also maybe address that in the more broad context of visas. Do you follow my question, Ellen? The H-2A visa. Remember, that was the temporary agriculture worker visa.
Yeah.
That's the H-2A. There's also an H-2B.
Yeah, and that's
Which
the
is
seasonal one.
non-agriculture.
H2B is the seasonal. It's like H2B is like ski resorts, things like that. The H2A is specifically agriculture.
But it's also things. H-2B is forestry, and
Yes.
there are a lot of things. But when you say I didn't get into the problems, I thought I did.
Well, no. You got to. I'm sorry. Not the problems. Maybe how we solve the problems, because I think in the interviews it described how the guys were told they were going to get minimum wage. They didn't get minimum wage. So you did define the problem. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way.
That's okay.
How do we solve that?
I can. Do you want me to go first, or Kevin?
Yeah. I think you
Want me
should.
to
I
go
know
first?
Kevin. I know Kevin's got a lot to say, but
Okay.
Actually, I don't on the H2A. Bs I do, but I know enough to chime in.
be dangerous.
Well, basically, it's a system of indentured servitude. Or there's talk now about tying people to the agricultural industry, and rather than a single employer. But what is that? That's serfdom. So what we have now is an appetite for vulnerable labor that can be exploited, worked to death. Even the farmers, United Farm Workers, their advertisements are always, Pedro goes out in the fields and he works from sun up to sundown, and it's very dangerous and it's very hard. And what a hero he is. Well, that's a bullshit argument. He's being exploited. He needs the things anybody needs. He needs to be able to get out of the sun. He needs water. He needs food. He needs to be able to rest. He needs good pay. But
to something that Jeff said, just to interrupt you a second, the advocates, the immigration advocates say, well, who's going to pick those vegetables?
It's baloney.
I agree with Ellen. It is baloney. I did a really good, fun interview a couple years ago with the CEO of Crew Harvester, and they've got a machine that will pick strawberries in the field, and it'll do it more efficiently and more effectively than a human. It's got several cameras, like they can literally look at each individual strawberry and pick at the proper time to also extend shelf life. Now, there's issues. The technology is proven. There are issues in terms of financing. For instance, in fact, half of their funding comes from the growers. Because the growers are eager for a technology solution for this, because interestingly enough, and I totally agree with everything Ellen just said, but as it worked out, certainly under Biden, they were having a lot of trouble keeping Pedro on the farm because the younger generations of Mexican, Latin Americans, South Americans, they don't want to work the fields either. So they're having trouble bringing them in and getting them in, as Ellen said, this cycle of indentured servitude. And, you know, there are certainly some very good discussions that would certainly make that process more efficient in terms of bringing someone back year after year after year. But that doesn't really get to the heart of what Ellen was talking about, the exploitation. And what we need to do, and there is, I will say this, an appetite on the Hill, because I had a rare discussion last week about exactly this. And there is an appetite to do something. And I think there has to be a technology component to it where we have to push automation. I grew up on a small farm in Pennsylvania, and, you know, in the 60s and 70s, the issue was the price of fuel because we were very mechanized and reliant on fuel. Now in California, and, you know, Jeff knows I lived in Los Angeles for 20 years. It was all about the price of labor and what they could get it down to. And it's funny, when you guys were talking, I went to the other room and I got this DVD, Cesar Chavez. It was, I thought, a great movie. And there's a line in there where they're striking. And one of the growers is like, get a truck. No, get 2 trucks. You get down the border and you get everyone you can and you bring them up here because we're going to break this strike. Because Cesar Chavez knew it was all about supply and demand. And unfortunately, Ellen, no one's more frustrated with the United Farm Workers than me, because they are not pro-labor. They are pro-status quo. I actually know some of the more senior people at United Farm Workers, and you know, they have no interest in solving the problem. And what they should be doing is, you know, those ways, like people will say, and I'm told this all the time, look, Kev, we're paying $15-20 an hour. Yeah, but should it be more? Are we really you know, the wages should be attracting people there. As Ellen said too, there's also the work rules. So you know, if you go to the Netherlands.
All right, well, Kevin, it's a good filibuster that you're doing, but it just occurred to me that we didn't even introduce you. You mentioned that I know you from Los Angeles, but we should give you an introduction to the audience.
Everyone knows me.
Well, no, I said
guest, yeah, but
go ahead, Jeff.
You introduced him. I missed it.
Not a formal introduction. I just said hello, and our next guest is there, and I wanted to talk to both of them about this because they both talk about this.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jeff.
All right. Kevin Lynn is a world-renowned troublemaker, and here he is. No, actually, he's a longtime student of history and world affairs. He worked in business development for some of the world's largest tax and accounting firms. And he is the founder and executive director of the Institute for Sound Public Policy and U.S. Tech Workers. He's also a U.S. Army veteran. Say hello to Captain Kevin Lynn.
Hey, great to be on the show. As always. Yeah.
All right.
We gave Alan a big introduction. It's only fair.
and awesome. I will say this, when we always get to the question of how do you get people in Washington to do something, Kevin does have some stripes on that because he did get President Trump to step in and defend during COVID, defend workers at the Tennessee Valley Authority from imported workers that would have been used as federal workers to replace American workers. So if there's a guy who can actually do something on this, this is the guy.
Awesome.
He's in the room.
I have, when I came to DC in 2017, I live in Lancaster, but I keep an office in DC. I sat down with a lobbyist who, for about 2 minutes, berated me for how stupid I was and I didn't understand what was going on. And I realized the time was ripe for asymmetrical warfare. And that's what I play when I'm in DC. And as such, we've been able to, yes, cheers.
Cheers to that.
Cheers, big ears.
Very little. And a lot of that is timing. You know, during the Biden administration, it was very difficult to make headway on things. But now, with the Trump administration and a view to curtailing and restricting immigration, we can now, I think, begin to have those conversations. But I think, too, they have to begin just taking a step back. Watching your video, Ellen, I worked for Ross Perot for 2 years. I was a volunteer for him in his 92 campaign, and I worked for United We Stand America for 2 years, and I fought NAFTA, GATT, and the WTO. And we did a protest against the Border Governors Conference shortly after NAFTA passed, and I had invited the head of the Mexican Farm Workers Union to come up and speak. And it was amazing because he predicted NAFTA would throw 1 million Mexicans off their farms, and it did, I think, 1.1 million. And that's the supply of labor that is now working in these horrendous meatpacking plants now. It's really awful what we've done. We basically set up the United States and Mexico and, frankly, the world as economic zones. And we've failed to realize that these are countries, and we should be embracing our culture and are valuing certain things like our middle class. And we've watched all that deteriorate.
Well, that's on our end. That's on our end. And you talked about automation, which is also on our end. But what should we do on the other end to take away the incentive for people to come here and go through the grueling experience that they have to go through to get here?
Yeah, taking a step back, Jeff, in the 1950s and 1970s, the population of Latin and South America and Mexico tripled. So by the 1990s, there was a huge, it was almost like there was a safety release valve that needed to get unleashed. And that in itself led to a lot of immigration into the United States. That has all changed. No one's having 6 kids anymore. They're all hitting everyone's hitting a demographic cliff. So the pressures aren't there. Now the poverty still is, when someone's just trying to get sneakers on their kids' feet. But I think there is an opportunity. Do you recall Henry Wallace? He was the vice president under Franklin Roosevelt. He wrote a book. It was called I think it was called 1 Million Jobs. And it was printed just prior to World War II, or just as we had entered World War II. And he was talking about a program where they would go in and industrialize all these Latin American countries, because he said, look, we're going to need the rubber for the war. We're going to need all these supplies. And if we build the infrastructure, when we leave, we're going to have sound trading partners. And he was right. I believe he was right. Unfortunately, he couldn't get anyone in Congress to really go along with it. And that is a great tragedy. And I think perhaps we should try our hand at something like that. And I can understand where the president is looking to say, look, you guys out. This is our hemisphere. But we have to drive business opportunities. I mean, it's, to me.
Yeah, something like that. What do you think, Alan? Do you think something like that would work, or do you see any other solutions?
I'm already liking Kevin a lot, and I can see you know a lot and you've thought a lot about this. I am pretty suspicious of any efforts to help out Latin America. Developmentalism. Developmentalism turns into a way to get more money into the already deep pockets of corporations. So I'm very.
Are you thinking more on the lines of small is beautiful, Ellen, where you take little bets, allow small local economies to develop and grow and nurture? Is that what you're kind of getting at?
What I'm getting at is that the United States doesn't help Latin America. It doesn't help Central America or South America. It develops. I mean, we've already got these these cities, these zones that are independent. I can't think what they're called. They're economic zones.
Free trade zones. Free trade zones.
Well, not the free trade zones. It's something akin to that, but these are like they operate under their own laws, and they're there for developmental purposes. And they're once again, people get displaced from their lands, and
well, I think, Ellen, correct me if I'm wrong, where you're coming from and your reticence on what Kevin is saying is the whole idea of the economic hitman. So we always come in with these companies and we say, well, we're here to develop you. Yeah. And just like the way the British did on the continent of Africa, where the train line came into the gold or the diamond mine and then just extracted. That's probably what you're reacting to. But I think am I correct in that?
Yes.
Kind of
and I'm also, I'm sorry.
The military coups and stuff that we put up earlier.
Yeah, we have this history, and it's not like in the far past. It's like the coup in Honduras in 2009 and what we're doing in Venezuela, and
How about the current election in Chile, where the guy that was elected is the son of a former Nazi official? Maybe that.
I mean, does it fall far from the tree?
We've also got a burgeoning export industry in Border Patrol, where we have a physical presence in Panama, in Israel, all around the world, Africa. We have a physical presence, not just advisors, but a physical presence, building up the borders. And I'm just very suspicious of any idea that we could both export Border Patrol and export any sort of humanitarian economic effort. Just very suspicious of that. But obviously you've thought about it, Kevin, and I'd be.
Right. I mean, it's Ken. I was doing a podcast with Tom Luongo last week, and he was really talking about things that we could do to bridle the Federal Reserve and actually make it work for America, as opposed to getting rid of it altogether. And I'm thinking along those lines too. If there was a way, as Ryan said, I read both the Economic Hitman books. And I mean, it was highly exploitative, highly extractive. It was a way to get them dependent on us, not make them independent. It was a bipolar world to it, although, it was either, do we want them in the Soviet camp or do we want them in our camp? Well, let's lock them into debt and keep them here as part of our block, and deal with the pesky non-aligned movement, as time allows. I think, I don't disagree with you, Ellen. I think it is fraught with peril. But given alternatives, if we have to do something, short of that, the solution is you guys are on your own, or you go, allow China to build your infrastructure down there.
Well, I think that's what's happening, actually. And that is part of what's going on, is that you have China going down there like they've gone into other countries, and they're saying, well, we can help you build seaports, railroads, whatever, teach engineers here locally. Certainly that is what is in the national security strategy that we see as a threat. But then the question is, I would go with what they're offering.
No, I view it as a threat, Ryan. But I think fundamentally, again, taking a step back, and there's the thing is with China, the business of China is business. The business of America is war. At least up till now, it has been. I mean, everyone is, whether they were Democrat or Republican, has always led us into war. And I think if we could prioritize business as the business of America, we might actually be able to spread wealth around this hemisphere. Because I think where ultimately the Trump administration is going is a form of mercantilism. Globalism obviously does not work for us, and it never will. The thing is, we can become more of a mercantilist power. We certainly have the military and the Navy for that, and we just get in with a very well-defined block of countries we work with and try to reduce the exploitation of our own people and people within that block.
Yeah, I mean, to the point that I think China's essentially doing the thing that you are saying that you want us to do, and I think that's kind of goes to, you got to hate the game, not the player. So you can't.
Yes, and I say that a lot.
Yeah. So, I think with what China's doing, which they send a formal invitation to every president every single year to join Belt and Road, which is, their initiative where they go in and they offer to build these infrastructures in exchange for X amount of, percentage of resources. And, that is something that we could be doing, but rather we have this status quo of kind of what Trump's saying, what is it? Peace through strength? Is it, this?
Yeah, peace through strength. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's not a good way to enter to the negotiation table. If that's what you're, and how we're posturing with Maduro right now, even though Maduro is saying, I will kick out China, I will kick out Russia, and I will give you the oil that you want. You still have Trump posturing, oh no, we want you out of office. We're going to, put you in a coffin. I think that's what one of his ex quotes has said. That's kind of how we've been operating ever since. And it's not getting us anywhere. I mean, it's only getting the corporations richer, and the roosters are coming home to roost, or the what is the saying?
Yeah, chickens are coming home to roost. Yeah.
Where it's
the thing is this, we have this, and again, I'm hoping with the Trump administration and future administrations, we can get away from this invade and invite strategy where we go in, we invade a country, blow it up, and then we invite a select few to come over here as refugees and immigrate to the U.S. It's not good for anyone. It's obviously not working with us right now. It's flawed. It's all part of the debt and death paradigm that I think we are on as a country, and we need to get off. Immigration is a symptom of a much broader globalist post-World War II phenomena that we have to really begin to deconstruct and walk back. And we again, this reliance on our military, which is a huge drain. It's pure economic loss at the end of the day. You look to see why we don't have bullet trains, and why? Because, well, we shipped all our manufacturing overseas. We have the lowest labor force participation rate ever in this country. We're in a really bad way.
I was thinking again, because Ellen and our guests, our audience should absolutely watch where can people watch it? I watched it from our friends
on Ellen's YouTube channel. But is there a link to it from your website to make it easy to find? Because those YouTube URLs are not easy to remember.
Right.
Well, you could just search Ellen Jimerson on YouTube. That would be one way, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. And my website, ellenjimerson.com, there's a link.
Has it.
There's a link to the YouTube.
Oh, that's
okay.
So
that's perfect. That's the way to do it. Yeah, let's share that. So the thing I was going to say is a perfect example that we could show that these nations are our peers, that are allies, our friends, not our clients, is Haiti.
Yeah.
I mean, take Haiti right now. Haiti's a complete disaster. No man's land. We could do exactly like what Morgan's saying in Haiti, like China's offering to all these other countries, and make them an example of how a country can be rebuilt with our methods, and the population can benefit equally from that, or the country can benefit. That would be one step I could see immediately. That's not the whole continent.
I mean, it's hard. It's that, I think we have to try, Ryan. It was funny, back in the 80s, I knew a Haitian when I was living in Belgium, and he would always tell me, be very good to the people you meet on the way up, because you'll never know who you meet on the way down. And he was talking about his father, who had been a general in the Haitian army, who was assassinated by Papa Doc one night. They came in, and that, because we're dealing with that kind of culture. I mean, this is we have to, I think, take kind of baby steps into all of this. But I don't see immigration being a solution. We always seem to want to say, oh, we're going to just give temporary protected status to this group of people because this happened. It never works out well. And I think we have to be much more restrictive on immigration, but also open to, hey, what are the drivers to immigration? And, that's what the promise of NAFTA was. It was never how it was designed to work, but that was kind of the promise that it would create
the marketing.
Yeah, it was great. Wonderful marketing. And, frankly, Ross Perot was right about everything there.
The sucking sound.
The great sucking sound. And then it became that. And now we...
Yeah. It's kind of, we do it to ourselves, or well, not we, I'm not actually, it's our leaders who have done this. And, I think we get into this trap of otherism and we don't even ask ourselves, like, there was this thing that is now being pushed, like this Somali crisis. Well, we've been bombing Somalia for as long as I've been alive. What's that about? There's not even been a congressional member that has come to me or has come to the American people and told them why it's even important that we need to be there. There's been some congressional members that have gone in front of the little pulpit and said, why are we in Somalia? This year we bombed Somalia 100 times, which is more than any other president. And you have this president who is kind of fear-mongering about Somalia, but he's making a condition where we're probably going to have to take more people from Somalia. And
but is it only fear-mongering? I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but what about this scandal in Minnesota?
No, it's awful. I mean, they're again, we live in a high-trust society. They come from societies where survival is a daily game. It's different values. Again, immigration is not the solution. But as Morgan was alluded to, as I said earlier, it's this invade and invite mentality. It's like, oh, we're going to blow them up. And then, by the way, we'll bring a select few. There's no criteria really, but we're going to bring them over here. That is wrongheaded. I think it's used to assuage and allow it to be easier to continue these policies.
Actually,
like these people that come here, they might, take the shitty job or, the crappy wage, and because their homeland is being bombed. So it's kind of like,
they're stuck. They're stuck. But I think this, to go to another visa question, these are the people the skilled ones that are not out day laborers picking in the field, that are then used to replace American jobs. So then if you want to talk about how you create this false dichotomy, gang counter gang, then you get people angry at the immigrants because they're taking my job. But the same companies that are down maybe in their country, looting their country, are now looting our country by bringing those immigrants here. So it has to be a complete break with whatever this disaster capitalism might be.
And Ryan, that speaks to globalization.
Yes.
For instance, the H-1B visa brings in skilled white-collar professional workers, 74% of whom come from one country, India, was designed. It was enacted in 1990, and it was designed to displace Americans. It was predicated on a myth that America would be short over 600,000 STEM workers this was from the 80s. And a guy named Eric Brock, who was head of the National Science Foundation, put out this unpublished, non-peer-reviewed paper. And this is what scared Congress into action. And so the lobbyists, like this guy, Harris Nathan Miller, got in there, and they literally engineered it to displace Americans. There are no labor market tests with this. Unlike, like the H-2A, at least the growers have to say, look, I tried to find an American. You don't have to do that initially with the H-1B. It's crazy. And Anyone who wants to learn more about it, we just published a paper in the December American Affairs Journal, and it's called the Rise and Fall of the H-1B Visa. And we went into the archives, we found the memos, the business cards, and it was just awful. But it's like Ellen said earlier, it's the marketing. They market anytime they bring out like some, we're going to fall behind the world or some other country, it's propaganda, it's rubbish. And we just have to be more cautious about that and have to just take a look at things and say, wait a minute, how does this benefit me at the end of the day? Why am I forced to learn about what's going on in Somalia and everything, where they're not even reporting who got shot last night in my city? They don't want me to know that. So I'm hoping we can get to this place. I think we're very far from it, but I'm hoping as a country we can come together over the next few years and just say, look, we got to prioritize what we want to do, and we got to stop, invading and inviting, and, work on the debt and death paradigm,
But is there even a way out of that? That's kind of what you have what I call the oligarch class. They're not going to want to give up their, their, ninth vacation in Turks and Caicos every year. They're going to fight tooth and nail to keep this status quo. And
let me just say, Jeff, I'm going to answer Morgan's question from the most unlikely of sources. Sarah Allard, who's agreed with me now twice on this show, she says we just need to smash this current world order and build a new one. What do you think of that?
That something is awry with the universe when we're agreeing with Sarah Allard.
Well, I saw that, Ellen, you wanted to make maybe a clarification on the whether the the visas, if they need to have that method of proof. I saw you kind of make a face. Kind of in the film, it kind of says that, where it's like they kind of have to.
They're supposed to. There are a lot of things the employers are supposed to do, but if they do it at all, they do it in a way that's meaningless. Like they have to advertise in the area that these jobs are available, and what that turns into is a 3x5 card, scotch taped into a window that nobody knows anything about,
Subterfuge, the penny saver. Yeah, it's the thing is,
the job ad.
Yeah,
the job ad. It's not like they're taking out an ad in the paper.
No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Right. It's way back. Who gets newspapers anymore?
Well, there's that.
In Santa Monica back in the early 2000s, and this guy comes up to me, and he's middle-aged, Mexican American, and he had been a picker in the fields in the 70s. And he said, hey, I would, because the reforms of Cesar Chavez were kicking in, they were being paid. He said, I made decent money. I had an apartment, I had a truck. He felt he was doing okay at the time. And I think we just have to, because these jobs right now, they purposefully, we have a group that doesn't speak English. So they're not, in the community, they don't live here, they're temporary, they go in and out. I mean, when I was a kid on the farm, the way you found out about jobs was all word of mouth.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, the second shift is opening up. Do you want to come in and work? That kind of thing. And, or, my father would say, oh, the kennel down the street, they need someone to paint their fence. Why don't you go do that? And that's completely and I think too, the mentality in this country, and I found this in LA, where they feel that there are certain jobs that are simply beneath them. It might be shoveling shit, digging a ditch, painting a fence, working outside. I noticed that in Los Angeles to a pretty significant degree, to the point when I moved back to Pennsylvania in 2016, I was the first one living in this adaptive reuse here in the city of Lancaster. And it was early Saturday morning, and I hear all this noise outside on my wall. And I go storming out there in my slippers, and I'm thinking, okay, in Spanish, I say this and this and this, and I look up, and it's a white guy, and I go, excuse me, it's 7:30 a.m. and you're making all this noise, and it's Saturday. And he goes, oh, I didn't know anyone was living here yet. I just wanted to get in before, the sun was, it's going to be a really hot day. And I'm like, oh, see, if you don't have these inflows of migrants coming in your community, actually these jobs are held.
But who are you talking about in Los Angeles, Kevin? I have a total, I mean, about Mexicans in particular. I don't know who you were talking about. I have a completely opposite view, having lived in LA. I always thought that the Mexicans were had the most can-do attitude imaginable. Whatever you ask, sure, no problem. And if they couldn't do it, they would get their cousin, and then somebody else who has a truck or a friend, whatever they were asked. Who were you talking about? Any particular
segregation wasn't in the attitude, but it was in the jobs that they were doing. There was an expectation that those jobs would be done by Mexicans, kind of thing. And that's the community. That's exactly.
If you're talking about non-Mexicans, that's what I was asking who you were referring to.
Right. That's who because when I was known for my views on immigration when I was living in LA, and I was in one of my favorite little diners in downtown LA, and I was reading a book, and one of the owners, saw me. Usually she'll say, "Hey, what are you reading, Kev?" But that day she came up to me and said, she sat down, and I'm like, this is unusual. She goes, you need to understand, we cannot do it without our illegals. I'm like, what? She goes, I can't get an American to stand over that stove for 8 hours a day. And we had a manager in here, and she took us to the labor board. And when one of these guys is sick, another one comes in their stead. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, how do you respond to this? And all I could say was, hey, do you offer health care? I guess not. Why did they take you to the labor board? Should someone be standing over a stove for 8 hours? I don't know. But when you have like Ellen said, an indentured servant class, you can, extract that from them, abuse them.
And I think another piece is that and I have to tell this anecdote because I was complaining earlier about the big immigrant advocacy groups in Alabama. And one of the persons that I interviewed for the second cooler, and I finally took that all out, was a lawyer who said, where else are you going to get somebody to get up on a roof in July when it's 110 degrees? And I asked the question, should anyone ever be asked to do that? Or as a child told me once, his mother was 8 months pregnant and working out in the strawberry fields or the tomato fields in, I think on Sand Mountain, Alabama. And it was 110 degrees on July the 4th. And he was out there helping her. Who should be asked to do this? Right, yeah. And I think a part of it is that when it comes to Mexicans and Salvadorans and so forth, their mindset is that this is temporary. They're going to do it until they can go back home and have enough money to build a little house. Whereas you go into the Black Belt of Alabama, you've got chronically poor, the made poor, kept poor, predominantly African Americans who've never even had an opportunity to keep a job and work their way out of poverty. For them, it's like, where they're going to go to. It's not temporary.
Right. There's no place to go. It's like, for instance, the construction trades. Like you go to, in the Southwest, it's dominated by Mexican, South American, Latin American labor. However, the entry level into what used to be a good middle class living was digging a ditch at a construction site, doing the sweeping up, right after you graduate from high school. And then as one fellow, I did a video with him. The title is called Roman the Tile Setter. And like he said, that's how he learned. He started on construction sites doing those unskilled jobs. And then he became a journeyman and got into tile setting. And then he had to leave Los Angeles because he could not hold a tile business together there. He had a special needs child and he had to go up to the Northwest. There was no way he could compete with
Ellen's having an earthquake where she is.
I'm having an earthquake. I pushed my little table and it's on rollers. Sorry.
Remember, I said I memorized the number to 911. Do you want me to call?
I want to up here after dark.
I would like to ask, what is, we do have a situation where we do have undocumented people in this country that've been here for, decades on end. What is the solution there? I mean, you have, they've been here, they have families here, they have ties here. Some of them, majority of them are not these, mass criminals that Trump likes to put on, display.
I'm sure some of those criminals are there, though. I am sure that there
are criminals. That's a human condition. There are people who engage in this criminal activity. Yes, but I would say that you have in the wide array of things, you have more of them who kind of have fallen into the displacement, and they, like your Second Cooler film alludes to, that because of their low rank already, that's what kind of forces them to take this, this route of coming here illegally. So what is kind of your guys' take on what should we do? Because you can't, this one thing that the Trump administration is now attacking is DACA, which is, the dreamers, the children who have been here. And I actually personally know someone who is in an ICE detainment facility in Texas. And they came here when they were 14 from the Philippines, and they are, being floated that they will be sent to a place that they have no memory of. Yeah. And so what is kind of your guys's, through your activism, this kind of methodology on how you guys address this issue? Because that is something that comes up. I mean, it's more human decency to say, you got to go to a place you've never been to, or a place that you haven't been to in decades, or now that your daughter or your son is an American citizen, what does that mean?
Yeah, and another part of that gets hardly any attention at all is that if you've got a Mexican or a Guatemalan man who gets deported and he's got an American citizen wife and kids who are U.S. citizens, then they get in this position of, do they stay here in the States with maybe their other children from a previous marriage, with their parents that need taken care of, or do they follow their husband? And I'm in a Facebook group with the women who talk about this every day. Do they follow them to a country they know nothing about, their kids know nothing about? Mm-hmm. And so this is a problem of white women, U.S. citizens, and their biracial kids being forced to make this terrible decision. And if they get to go before a judge, they've got to prove within these very narrow parameters that losing their husband and their father, and they may have a special needs child, would be a hardship for them. And 99 times out of 100, they cannot prove that would be a hardship. So you've got this entire population of U.S. citizens. So people talk now about Trump arresting U.S. citizens and so forth. Well, it's a huge problem for U.S. citizens that is not just about them being arrested, but about them being put in these untenable positions. And I've known people who followed their husband to, I think it was Bolivia, and it devolved into a domestic abuse situation. And she's got, she's in Bolivia with her kids, and to exit Bolivia, she's got to pay exit taxes that she doesn't have. So she's stuck in Bolivia. I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to comment.
Of course, yeah. I wanted both of you guys to comment on that, and I think just that one point is that it affects a lot of people. Like even Caroline Leavitt, her sister-in-law is subjected to ICE attainment. So it's so entrenched in American life just because of how pervasive this issue has been. But Kevin, I want to get your take on it.
Yeah, amnesties don't work. They never did. They only encourage more illegal immigration. We had, prior to IRCA, the 1986 Reagan amnesty, we had roughly 3 million illegal aliens in the country. Prior to Biden administration, we had over 13 million illegal aliens. Why? Because they figure, well, if we just stay long enough, there'll be another amnesty. So amnesties should not be a part of it. And although I think there are exceptions to certain rules, and the exceptions are people who might be married to an illegal alien, I don't think they did the prudent thing doing that. But I believe that's more the exception to the rule than it is the rule itself. And we shouldn't be running policy on something like that. That's something that probably can be arbitrated down the road. So we need what we need. And DACA itself, I mean, the DACAs are aging out at the end of the day.
They're about my age, about 28. I mean, that's still roughly, a very, naive person to send them to a foreign country and to, have them establish a whole new livelihood. That's a tall order.
And I will say this, DACA has always been on the table. Always on the table. However, the Democrats don't really want to use it. The Republicans would use it as a leverage to get something more restrictive, but the Democrats need to come to the table. They don't want to do it. And so, yeah, I think DACA is certainly, it should be used as a bargaining chip. I mean, that sounds cold, cruel, but it is the real politic that we live in. And I think we can structure a deal. But before we do the give, because those of us on the restrictionist front have learned repeatedly that if you give something and you don't get before, you lose. You will always lose. You will always, well, we said we'd put employer sanctions in there. Well, they never came. We said we'd be more restrictive. We'd do better border security. We'd do better interior security. That never happened. And then we had the Biden administration, which literally blew everything up. And I don't think enough people will be able to go to jail for that. What they did to this country there. But yeah, I think the exception should not be the rule. There should never be another amnesty again. Everyone came to this country knowing what the game was. Morgan, you had said, actually, I'm kind of the opposite. I say, love the game, hate the players. Yeah, and I tell people, if you're in Washington and you hate the game, you should go home because you're going to be really unhappy here. So I think everyone knew what they were doing, and they will push the law. I mean, deportation is not easy. There are ways to get your stay here in the U.S. extended again and again and again through the immigration court system. I think that needs to be streamlined to speed deportations. Because at the end of the day, I mean, this is impacting American workers in a negative way. And it always has. Samuel Gompers, who was the founder of what is now the AFL-CIO, he said it best. The chambers of commerce always want this revolving door of labor to keep coming in, to keep, the American workers off kilter and unable to organize. And the ethnic lobbies want more of their own people in so they can gain political control. So I think we need to, the restrictionists we want a deal, but we want the deal to be a good one, and where it's not like.
The question is, who's the deal with? Okay, because again, going back to the film from Ellen, some of the things you've said, you have the companies that are largely telling people in Washington what to do. They're the ones that are benefiting. The countries in South America, they're not really benefiting. The American population is not benefiting. So who's the one you make the deal with?
Well, it's ultimately all immigration is decided by Congress. So that's where the deal has to happen. Now, the powers that come in there, for the last year, I've been involved with a group called Braver Angels, where we have literally pulled all sides, polar opposites on the immigration together. And the people facilitating it are pretty skilled. We've had 4 meetings, and it's kind of just dripping along, but there is a method to their madness. We're all getting a little more comfortable together. Like I was sitting.
Did you say Braver Angels?
Braver Angels. And
So
I'm
what's
literally
their mission?
sitting.
Who are they?
I'm literally sitting next to a guy who representing the Chambers of Commerce. Across from me was a guy, retired senior partner of a firm that set up how all these companies like the Intels of the world could skip when a H-1B visa holder, the company decides to sponsor them for a green card. At that point, they have to demonstrate that there isn't an American for that job. Well, I said you've made hundreds of millions obfuscating these job ads and everything. It was no, we made over $1 billion doing that. So I'm in this room with the people that we might be able to come to some agreements on things. And then it's a question, then can we, pressure or persuade our electeds to go along with some of these? But, so ultimately it is Congress, but you're right. There are a lot of power players in this. And I think the president can do an awful lot to take their positions off the board. Yeah, there it is.
Mm-hmm. I mean, go ahead, Morgan.
You want to go, Ryan? Okay, whichever one. I know we're kind of getting longer than we initially told you, Ellen. Sorry. Right. Sometimes the show does go on longer. But you go ahead, Ryan.
Well, what I wanted to say is that this is obviously something that requires more than just one or two of us to get in there and talk to them. Again, my history is going and speaking to state representatives to then put pressure on the Congress. I think that the one benefit of the H-1B visa battle is that so many people who thought that there was an unfair labor situation on our side of the border. It's very easy to see with Ellen's film and what's going on with the immigrants, but what's going on with Americans is, unfortunately, sometimes it takes that before they get into the fight. Now, we don't know if the United States is going to invade Venezuela now or after the midterm elections. Tucker Carlson was talking about it, that maybe Trump would announce that in his speech before Congress, or speech last night. Now, I was just looking at this from Julian Assange, who is suing the entire Nobel Peace Prize panel for giving this prize to Machado, who is the opponent to Maduro. Not really even liked by the people in Venezuela, by the way. But the point being that what is it, $1.1 million that she will get will actually end up paying for weapons and warfare. So we're on the verge of a flood of new immigrants, new refugees, unless we actually get people into this fight and see what really is going on to change the policy.
Yeah.
And that, it's from all sides.
You asked earlier, what is the solution? I think you've asked exactly the right question. Who benefits from all of this? And that's what I opened my film with and is on my poster. And it's not people who are crossing borders illegally or working in bad conditions. But the solution is, I say it again, stop displacing people to begin with. People don't want to be displaced. There are entire Guatemalan villages that are now in Alabama. They didn't want that.
They'd prefer to stay in Guatemala.
Of course, of course. We all want to stay where we're comfortable, where we understand the customs, where we understand the food, and where our families are. No entire village wants to come to Alabama, I can assure you. North Alabama. The second piece of any solution is to create a visa that people can wait for a reasonable amount of time, like 2 or 3 months, pay a reasonable fee, like $350, and be able to cross the border legally with their families. The minute we do that, we take the deaths in the Rio Grande, the Sonoran Desert, the Pacific Ocean out of the picture. The minute we do that, those deaths stop. Mm-hmm. And I think we also have to look at a bigger situation, which is that, for such a long time, we thought in terms of entry-level jobs and getting educations and all of this, where now you have PhDs who are being displaced and turned into gig workers. Right. Where, I know one person who taught history at the University of Alabama for over 20 years before she had an office, before she had a guarantee of a job the next semester. I know
lucky, Ellen, today she's actually lucky to get that. It sounds awful, but she is lucky. I know a woman, I was talking to her last week. She was a lecturer at California Polytechnic, or Cal Poly as they call it. Yeah. And they had no issues during COVID when they weren't bringing in H-1Bs. However, she didn't get her contract renewed this year, and literally, I looked at the government website. Cal Poly has doubled the number of H-1Bs, and literally, they're bringing in a guy from China on an H-1B to lecture on chemistry. And you're telling me we can't find Americans to do this? Yeah. This is awful.
Yeah. That's right. And doctors too. We mentioned U.S. tech workers, but another one of the offshoots from Kevin's group is Doctors Without Borders. They're in the same boat, right?
Or Doctors Without Jobs. I testified before Congress.
Oh, I said Doctors Without Borders. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, just this year, over 1,300 doctors who graduated in good standing from U.S., continental U.S., not counting the Caribbean, that's an issue too, but graduated as doctors, didn't get a residency. Over 1,300. At the same time, over 5,100 foreign trained physicians got residencies at U.S. teaching hospitals. We haven't grown the number of residencies. We haven't significantly grown the number of hospitals, teaching hospitals. And we've known this since the 80s that we were going to have this big, the boomers were going to be hitting an age when they would require a lot of health care, and we did nothing to prep for it. And the solution is always more immigration.
Well, we're not building more hospitals. We're not building more research medical facilities. We're not, where are the factories? You do know China's building everything. Russia is largely self-sufficient. Europe is broke, but we are a power, right? For good or for bad, we're a power, but we're not building the capacity. Even in Arizona, near where my mother lives, the chip manufacturer there in Phoenix, they're behind schedule. They claim it's because they can't find local workers, but they're still behind on building the facilities, right? So everything is kind of come to a screeching halt. It's like rust has set in, and oil is not just going to make it work. You actually have to mobilize people. And Jeff, that made me think. You had I think it was Kyle Serafim. I don't remember who it was, but there was some conservative person who was pushing a revival of Roosevelt's CCC, where you bring in all these young people to build things, learn trades, and then you have a workforce that is able to work in a factory because they've gone through a certain amount of regimentation and training. We don't have that yet. And until we have some fundamental baseline of activity, then everything that we say, like, unfortunately, the speech last night was very much like watching a used car salesman try to tell me that this thing that had no motor was going to get me to where I wanted to go. It ain't going to happen unless you have a baseline.
Yeah, if I have one criticism of this president and I have many, that's why I'm not in the administration. I haven't been invited into the administration. Apparently, he's be a little vindictive. But one of my big criticisms is, why are you saying we have the greatest? He should be laying all of our economic woes down on Biden. I mean, it was amazing. Ed Dowd believes that every illegal alien that came through, or they'll say legally came through in some cases because they documented them somehow, received $50,000 between them and the NGO. And that was anywhere from $1 billion to $1.5 trillion, or almost $1.5 trillion in immediate economic stimulus that really kept us from going into a recession depression in 2024. And we should have been. I mean, that's how, so think of how precarious things are now. I think, Trump, like you said, acting like a used car salesman trying to sell this economy that's going nowhere for anyone. And it's funny. I've been talking to colleges now. I was just out at Penn State and I was out at University of Pittsburgh. These kids are pissed. They know they're hosed. Like, for instance, I said, all right,
you didn't go to the University of Philadelphia. What is it? UPenn?
No, not Penn.
UPenn, aren't they going to be? They're not going to be pissed at UPenn.
Yeah. I stayed away from although I understand I might be talking at Harvard next semester.
Go to Drexel, though. Go to Drexel.
Really?
Yes, yes.
My nephew went to Drexel.
Drexel's a good school. Remember I know friends who have graduated medical degrees. They still have a tie-in to science, industry, technology, production.
Oh, yeah. My nephew who graduated with a biology degree did get on with Merck because he had been doing internships with Merck, and now he's working at Merck. Although it was actually my brother that actually got him into Merck.
Just for our audience, UPenn is is sort of it's an Ivy League snooty school. They think they're going to run the show.
Yeah, Wharton is their big MBA school.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, these kids know, because I said, show of hands, how many are in STEM? And then I said, how many computer science? No one raised their hands. And these two guys were like, we were computer science, but we know what our chances are of getting a job, and if we get one, remaining in the workplace with the STEM OPT program, the H-1B visa program. We're literally shooting that next generation in the head, and that needs to end. This nonsense. And the thing is, I will say this, there are a lot right now, since all the advocacy we've done since last year at this time is really paying off in terms of awareness on the H-1B visa. But the program STEM optional practical training, which STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. I'll talk to electeds about that and ending it. And that's something that was not legislated into being. It could be ended with a simple rule change in 60 days. So we have roughly 249,000 foreigners who got STEM degrees working here in the U.S. and literally competing with our college graduates. And corporations love it because they don't have to pay FICA, Social Security, and it's practical training, so they can pay them anything they want. There isn't even a prevailing wage of any kind. And so our kids know how bad they're getting hosed. And I thought which I knew a lot of older Gen Z, and they're more conservative, but the younger Gen Z are very conservative, and they're speaking out, and they should be.
Well, it's definitely the case. We have a huge job to fix this side of the border and that side of the border. People should definitely go to Ellen's website, and maybe we can post it on our Substack so that her film is available. People can also follow the U.S. tech workers. Let's see if I can find that without the ticker. So that
our social media platform at U.S. Tech Workers is probably our most active. We get about 5 million views a month there. And then we also have, Jeff, you were laughing the other time I was on, we have a bunch of platforms. And prior to Elon, we did that for survival. I thought if they took us down on one, we'd still have another one. But our Project for Immigration Reform, P4Org, that gets about 1.2 million views a month. We have really high engagement rates. So people are very interested in all of this.
And Jeff, let's see, we're going to have one more show for the holiday season next week, right? I think we are.
Next week is Christmas.
Oh no, next week is Christmas. I'm sorry, I got my dates wrong. So we're not going to
do something for New Year's, which is New Year's Day, but we gotta figure that out. Yeah. But anyway, Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you very much. Thank you both very much for being here.
I'm glad that Kevin and Ellen almost fell in love. That was a nice surprise.
Oh, star-crossed.
Yeah. It was a very good discussion. Thank you both very much.
Yes. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you for facilitating it. This was great.
All right. Thank you all. You have a good night.
All right. Take care, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.